Well, welcome back to the winter wonderland of rural Retreat, Virginia, historic rural Retreat, Virginia. We're at the Hotel Orloff, and man, we got a lot of snow out there. Work was canceled tomorrow, so I can continue to make an episode every few hours. I'm going through Marvel magazines. If you want to come along with me, that's fine. If not, hopefully the obsessive compulsive in you won't force you to watch every minute of every episode. And we lost 2 subscribers yesterday, and then I gained 3 today. So that means we're +1. We're up to 661 subscribers here on the Gratu Orloff Inspirational Network. It is January 9th, 2023. Another historic snowstorm here. Anyway, all that. Whatever. We looked at vampire tales. We looked at Dracula Lives. We were looking at Monsters Unleashed, I believe, when the phone ceased functioning. Yeah. So, I remember it so well, just like yesterday at the HEB supermarket, getting this issue of Monsters Unleashed. And Frankenstein's monster has man, he's like holding a whole light pole here. It's Boris Vallejo, which I always thought was wonderful as a kid. A picture of Frankenstein's monster, and then it says Boris. You know, you can imagine almost that Boris Karloff had painted it. So again, these Marvel black and white magazines were done to attempt to run Warren magazines out of business, to corner the market on comic books. And then Atlas Seaboard would start, and they'd do their own black and white magazines trying to run Marvel and Warren out of business. But anyway, this is a nice portrait of Frankenstein's monster. Sometimes you can see instantly that it is a reprint from the 50s. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Here's the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, and how sad for that. And sometimes they'd even have ads for the color comics, like giant-sized Spider-Man and Dracula, because monsters were real big in the 70s. I mean, they'd been real big since the late 50s, all through the 60s. Monsters are big, but in the 70s, it just seemed like there was another blast of coolness. Here is it's weird. It's a Werewolf by Night, but it's a prose feature. It's an art. It's like a pulp. Oh, look, they're scooping up the snow out there, but work is still canceled already for tomorrow, so never fear. And so anyway, if you're a Werewolf by Night completist, or if you're just one of those morons that needs to get the Moon Knight issue for your slabbing wall, anyway, this is a Werewolf by Night text story. That way you don't have to hire an artist. There's a How Sad for Vampire Tales. Oh my goodness, it's like a giant monster kind of thing. Kaiju kind of thing. Yeah, normally you don't get the giant monster element, but since it's Monsters Unleashed, I guess they did that. It's Jerry Conway, man. Oh, my wife's calling. The artist is Carlo Friaxis. Anyway, it's a giant monster story. I better go up and see what's going on with my wife. My wife has had insomnia for like a week practically, and then she finally got to sleep, and she's been getting some good sleep today, and I guess she just awakened. Here's another Frankenstein story. This is it started as Frankenstein 1973. Now it's Frankenstein 1974. It's Frankenstein in modern day 1974, which is when this magazine came out. It was yeah, it was and then there was a color comic out at the same time called The Monster of Frankenstein, which later changed to The Frankenstein Monster. This is a Marvel magazine, an earlier one from 1966. This is one of those quickie monster magazines where there's little funny things that they're saying. And believe it or not, as I recall, some of these are actually funny, but they're all the amazingly funny jokes are by Stan Lee. There was another one of this series that I just found in another box yesterday. I need to put this with the other one. But anyway, I'm going to run upstairs and see how my wife's doing. You can watch all the fun outside. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, so all is well with the wife. She just woke up. So I'm back. Let's finish this episode up. And this will be the last show I do today. I'll do some more tomorrow. More of the Marvel black and white comics. Oh yeah. There was also a comic called The Rampaging Hulk. And I don't have all of them. I don't know why, this is number 4. The cool thing about this is they set it in the early days of the Hulk in the, like, the Kennedy era in the early 60s. And this was August 77. The Hulk TV show, that was the 77-78 television season. So this started, I guess the Hulk show was in production, and I guess they started this not long before the TV show with Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby started. It's Jim Starlin wrote it and he penciled it, and then Alex Nino inked it. John Starlin wrote the plot. John Warner scripted it. Alex Nino inked Jim Starlin's penciling. So, see, it's supposed to be the Hulk of this era. But it's very unlike the Hulk illustrations you would have seen in the color comics. So it's a cool comic. Oh, this is Bloodstone is a backup feature. Val Mayrick penciling that. And they have, some profiles of. It's just it's kind of a throwback to the Silver Age of comics, which I like to call the Kennedy Age or the Johnson Age, even though I hate to say Johnson's name. He was a pretty awful president, in my opinion. Okay, so I don't have another one until issue 9. This one will certainly catch your attention. The early Avengers. Earl Norham cover, marred by this horrible thing, but what can you do? And it has a Shanna story in it. Drawn very much like Warren's Vampirella. And it's Shanna the She-Devil, and there was a Beatles comic that the magazine that the Marvel put out around that time. And they have lots of little sketches of Shanna. She takes up like the whole back part of this magazine. Shanna the She-Devil, a portfolio by Tony DeZuniga. They had a issue of Foom dedicated to space heroes, the Foom Force, because Star Wars had come out, so it's all about Star Wars, Close Encounters 2001, Logan's Run, Star-Lord, Killraven, Guardians of the Galaxy. Which, trust me, was a very different Guardians of the Galaxy than what later became the Guardians of the Galaxy and what you see in the movies. Anyway, this is the Hulk and the Avengers comic. I've got a book upstairs that reprints all of these Hulk magazines. So that's probably why I haven't been more proactive in seeking out back issues. Plus the fact of no money, And then, I guess, with the next issue after that one, Val Mayrick, you don't ever hear people talking about him anymore. But here he did the cover for this issue. Since the TV show was on, it's a wraparound cover. They made the Hulk a color magazine. And Marvel had started to do color magazines with Kiss and the Beatles. And they did a Conan color comic. And then they did a color Hulk comic. It was kind of like a different market. because not every place that carries magazines carries comic books, and especially after the direct market started taking over, this is a way to get comics into the hands maybe of a slightly older audience or people that wouldn't normally see comic books or a comic book spinner rack. So, how about that? Oh, here's some more Hulk ones. I mean, the storm was bad. That's sound effects from the other room. I've got, last episode, I was playing Alex Jones in the background, and at a certain point, I had to get up to go use the restroom. And as soon as I left the room, I guess as bumper music, they played a Depeche Mode song. So when I uploaded my video, the last episode, episode 900, I got a big yellow warning. It's a copyright violation of Depeche Mode, and I've never listened to Depeche Mode in my life. And I'm thinking, Depeche Mode? And they said, if you want, you could trim this segment out or you could mute it. So I pressed mute it. And so what happened is last episode I'm talking about CGC and how much I hate it, and I hate that people slab comics, and I say, I'm going to go in the other room and punch a wall and put a hole in the sheetrock and come back after I've let my anger out about CGC. So I get up, and then that's when the Depeche Mode song started on Alex Jones, apparently. So that's when there's total silence, and then right before I come back in the room, the sound starts again. So it actually worked out pretty good, and now I don't have a copyright problem, because it said it was forbidden to be seen in Russia. Because I played a few seconds of a Depeche Mode song, my video wouldn't be viewable in Russia, and that's not fair to all our Russian fans like Ivan Drago that's been wanting to see the DVDs in my collection and my rockabilly record collection. So anyway, it sounded like the sounds of the destruction in the other room had been blanked out, was muted out, and so it actually made it kind of dramatic. You can watch episode 900 and see what I'm talking about. This is issue 11. It's another one of these color issues, again, with the wraparound cover. And back then, Marvel was smart. They put the UPC code on the back. That's the way to go, yeah. So this was done, at this point, they were no longer setting it in the early 60s. They were trying to make it seem more like the Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno TV show, because they figure that's the target audience of this. So you know, it's kind of looks a little more like Bill Bixby a little bit and all that stuff. It's just more. That's what they were trying to do, ladies and gentlemen. That's a Bob Larkin cover. He started doing a lot of paintings around that time period. And then the last of the Hulk books I have, this cover's not really as slick. Gotham City Comics has replied to one of my videos. It just popped up on the top of my phone. Okay, this is a great cover. I mean, this is a great cover. And that's, of course, Earl Norham. Yeah. He did a lot of those men's adventure magazines. You can see right there, that looks like a men's adventure. Look, if you can get, that looks like a men's adventure cover, like Real Men magazine. It's color art. Again, that's what I'm starting to look like, I'm afraid. I almost walked up to the supermarket to get something to drink and eat, and then I realized that's stupid. It's really cold out there. It's like 29 degrees. I should show you how. The snow, I would say, is about 6, 7, 8 inches. I don't know. It depends on where you step. It could be up to 10 inches in places. Anyway, whatever. He's bursting out of an airplane. Okay, the Hulk. It started as the Rampaging Hulk, and then became simply The Hulk when it became a color magazine. Now this is one of the earliest forays into black and white magazines that Marvel did. This is the Spectacular Spider-Man painted cover, and it was just wonderful. It was black and white Spider-Man adventures. It didn't sell because it was 40 cents, and that was a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, I think Famous Monsters of Filmland was expensive. It was like 30 cents or maybe 35 cents, but 40 cents when comics were 12 cents. Beautiful art, though. It just didn't make it. And there was this issue, and there was another one with the Green Goblin, which must be in another box. I have both of them. It's from July of 1968. Actually, by that point, comics might be 15 cents, but it's 40 cents was expensive. They're figuring this is being read by college-age people. There's an ad for the Mothers of Invention, Frank Zappa Mothers of Invention record. There's a cologne ad, which is not something you'd see in a normal comic book. They're trying to aim this in a Kawasaki motorcycle. And then this is the ad for the next issue with the Green Goblin. These, and they retell his origin in the back. Like they're kind of just assuming that maybe new people are coming aboard with the first issue of this magazine that have never read the comic. Now, this story was reprinted in the early 70s in Spider-Man with some alterations. Just really nice. If you're into Spider-Man, you got to get this book. But I would like to find where the other one is and put this with that. So I'm pulling this one out of the box along with that Monsters Unlimited funny one. Tales of the Zombie. This wonderful Boris Vallejo cover. Now, the Zombie Simon Garth had first appeared in a pre-code horror comic. Werewolf by Night also, there was in one of the old horror comics in the Marvel Timely Atlas. At that time, there was a Werewolf by Night story. So let's look at this. This is going to be early 1973. It probably actually came out. Let me see. This early wave of these Marvel horror magazines. Yeah, 1973. But I'm thinking it was out about Christmas of '72. Wonderful smelling, first of all. They would do this thing. Vampire Tales had red, little bits of red, and they put color into them. And this is, showing the voodoo rituals that create. Oh, but yes, they reprint the original pre-code horror story that was called Zombie. And so this is the original story from the 50s that inspired this comic. And see, they put green captions. And they did it throughout the book, little bits of green here and there. But that was only in the very first issues of Dracula Lives, Vampire Tales, and Tales of the Zombie. Maybe just the first issue. It wasn't something that you would see throughout the whole run of these 1970s horror comics. There's a preview for next issue. Now at last you can be the host of your own fright gallery. Not night gallery. You get this Frankenstein, the Keeper, the Werewolf. They look kind of amateurish. There's Dracula and Dorian Gray, too. $1.50 each from Johnson Mashburn Studios in Tennessee. Maybe if you live in Tennessee, you can find something like that in your antique stores. These are some of the magazines that were coming out at the time. I think Monster Madness was the first of the 70s black and white magazines. That other one called Monsters Unlimited, that came out. And then there's another one called Monsters to Laugh With. See, there's someone cleaning up the snow out there. Anyway, it's a comic book about a zombie. I got off on a story about Bob Beerbaum, either in the last episode or the episode before, and I just remember I never finished my whole point of that story. He's, he had a store called Comics and Comics. Comics, C-O-M-I-C-S, normal comics, above ground, and C-O-M-I-X, which spelled with an X that always means underground comics. And he had that store in San Francisco. Well, he has all this knowledge about comic book history, and he knows a lot of things that are usually reported wrong in books about comics history and the history of comic book retailing. And anyway, he was talking about how, the Comic Book Price Guide would not allow underground comics to be put in the price guide, the Overstreet guide. But then he said he and his friends started to notice that the price guide started to really endorse and lionize sadism in comics. And, to hippies, which, or counterculture guys, that really didn't come across as really cool. It's like pointing out, this is injury to eye motif, because sometimes in those really violent pre-code early 1950s, late 40s crime comics and horror comics, there might be some, poker going into an eye, and then they'd mention, bondage covers and this and that. It seems like they seem to be pumping up and coming up with little terms for comics that really pushed the boundaries, I guess, of good taste a little bit. Kind of like this. I don't want to even show it. Some of this pushes the boundaries of good taste too. But anyway, so in a lot of ways, these are like the pre-code horror, except they're not in traditional comic book format. I better take this tape. Anyway, whatever. And they'd always point out issues that were mentioned or talked about, or pictures, panels were shown from them in the book Seduction of the Innocent by Dr. Frederick Wortham and everything. And so that was, they kind of looked on in chagrin while, they would refuse to accept any mention of the underground comics. They would talk like it's really cool, the horrible things that were in the regular comics. Anyway, next issue is, this must be issue 2. Boy, these covers are so great. Boris Vallejo. And, it doesn't look so old-fashioned anymore. Bell bottoms are back in style. I don't know if you realize that or not, but they are. It's just a comic about voodoo and zombies, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to tell you, except you should buy it. This is another pre-code story they reprinted in here. I don't know, I'm having a good time. Oh, someone put, love those Marvel horror mags. Someone just wrote, I didn't get to see who wrote that. It flashed at the top of my... I'll respond to your comment when I finish this video. When the gods crave flesh. Steve Gerber's writing it. Pablo Marcos is the artist. He's a character that is dead, and he's kind of... and he's a zombie, And so, Man-Thing and the Zombie are kind of characters that don't have a lot of personality. This is actually issue 3. So this must be issue 2, yes. Which it looks like I bought this one more recently. Marked $20, so that means I got it for $10. Because that's what this sticker means. Again, Boris Vallejo. I mean, I always wanted these. I got this probably right, I guess, during the pandemic. Because Duncanville Books closed for however many months the government forced them to close. And while they were closed, they filled out their bins with comics and monster magazines and priced them and got them out in the bins. So when they finally opened their doors back up, I went in to find a smorgasbord of the comic books and magazines of my childhood like this for really cheap prices, like $5 each and things, and sometimes $2 each. So that's when I got this one. I miss Duncanville Books, I have to say. But I don't miss everything else that went along with living in North Texas. The crime, someone leaving a supermarket shopping cart in my side yard like once a week. It's just horrible stuff. Oh yeah, man, you forget about Ralph Reese. Some of these artists from this time period, yeah, he was cool. What happened to Ralph Reese? There's pre-code horror. Somebody's cleaning the driveway of. Oh, this is great. This would probably make a great T-shirt. This John Romita, Satana, the Devil's Daughter. Her costume would change a lot. This is probably a little too close to Vampirella's costume. If you were James Warren, you might start speed dialing your lawyer on that one. But wonderful, 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 as Lawrence Welk would say. Okay, that's issue 2. This is issue 3. So, will 4 follow? Yes, it is issue 4. It says James Bond versus Voodoo, so that they must be covering Live and Let Die in this, which would probably have been a movie that was playing in theaters at the time that this swell magazine came out. Beautiful art. Beautiful back cover promoting the next issue. Yeah. Everyone wants, as their hero, a zombie. Oh, there's a whole feature on Pablo Marcos. I'm sure where is he from? Let's see. A dedicated, hardworking craftsman in the graphic arts, father of 4 children, and he is from, Lima, Peru. He's Peruvian. Here's artwork by Ernie Chua, one of my favorite artists, also known as Ernie Chan. Nobody talks about him, except very few people talk about him. I like to keep his name alive. All the great art he did on covers in the mid 70s and DC books. What a great guy. Yeah, James Bond. Yep. Tales of the Zombie number 4. Yeah, they're getting the streets gradually clear. Oh, I got 2 copies of that issue. This one was marked 15, so I must have got it for $7.50, half price at Duncanville Books. Oh, this is a Brother Voodoo story. Brother Voodoo started in Strange Tales, and I think I've got 2 copies of his first appearance in Strange Tales, and it's gone up tremendously in value. I'm not sure why, if people think that Marvel's going to do a Brother Voodoo movie, which would be very unlikely. Here's a little thing on Sugar Hill, which was that Pam Grier? I don't think it was Pam Grier. No, that's not Pam Grier. What was her name? Diana Sugar Hill. Yeah, that was a zombie movie from the 70s. They have articles on zombie movies, and then they have cartoons about zombies. Yeah, they called him the man without a soul. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? The man without a soul. I was gonna joke that that was Pat Boone's nickname, but that would be man without soul, not without a soul. Pat Boone obviously has a soul. Is he still alive? Sometimes you wonder. It's like I haven't heard about him in a long time, but I sure haven't heard that he passed away. Like when David Soul passed away, when that came out a few days ago. It's like, oh, I didn't know he was still alive. It's like one of those things when people just disappear. You don't know. This is Tales of the Zombie number 8. I always thought I was the only. Yeah, by this point, Satana does not look as much like Vampirella, although they still have the bare midriff section, very much like Vampirella. They've given her more of a distinctive outfit, so she doesn't look completely like they're just completely copying that character. That's number 8. That one was never bagged and boarded, apparently. And 9. He lives, he strikes, no grave can hold him. This is issue number 9. Another Earl Norham cover. And then I remember this was kind of a lame, this isn't my childhood copy. I bought this later. They did a black and white Tomb of Dracula. Now this would have been later in the 70s, 1979. See, they're promoting the Frank Langella Dracula movie and also Love at First Bite. That's why they put this out, to cash in on 2 Dracula movies coming out at the same time. One, a serious attempt to do Bram Stoker's book, and the other one, a disco comedy with what's his face playing him. Why can't I think of his damn name? Which was, but this. I'm not saying this is bad. It's just like the Tomb of Dracula comic book. It's got the same people, Gene Colan and yeah. Man, why can't I think of names? Oh. Yeah, at the same time they started doing Howard the Duck black and white magazine, so they could have a little bit more. The comic book didn't went on. Then I don't know why they stopped doing the color comic, but they went and started doing a black and white comic where they. Man, what is that guy's name that was George Hamilton, right? Not George. Is that his name? He always. It's George Hamilton, right? Why? I'm having a senior moment here. George Hamilton. Yeah, he always had a suntan, always. So that's funny. Not that funny, but it's ironic that they cast him as Dracula, since he was never seen in public without a deep tan. Here is number 1 of Unknown Worlds of Science Fiction. I got this at Half Price Books not long before I left Texas. And it's got a beautiful cover. It's a beautiful cover. I mean, look at that. Who did this damn cover? The eyes and everything, it makes you think this is Kelly Frias. But there's some kind of moisture damage on the back, which I wasn't aware of, because you can't take the books out of the bag in Half Price Books, but I've never run across another copy of this, so it's okay. What is that garbage? Okay, this is a kind of a strange story here, but I'm realizing some of these books I bought right before I left, and I really haven't had much chance to look at them. That's 1. This is 2. This is another. I got this that same day at Half Price Books. There's a Half Price Books about an hour from me where I now live. I've only been there once. Didn't buy anything. But I miss Half Price Books as well. Anyway, these are science fiction stories by pretty acclaimed writers. I don't like it when they do that kind of text with the well, there's good stuff in here. These aren't in very good shape, but what can you do? This is The Destroyer, which is based on a series of paperbacks that were kind of, the pulps went under the magazines, but then there were all these paperbacks. When I was a kid, there was The Destroyer and a long series of paperbacks that basically the same thing as the pulps, because every pulp would be like novel length. And Remo Williams, they made a movie with Fred Ward playing Remo Williams, and this Marvel series started about the same time that the movie came out. That must have been the mid-'80s. So this is that's what this is. It's issue 7. Earl Norham cover. Oh, these vandals are vandalizing Mount Rushmore. They're like hippies or something. Okay, well, that's the Destroyer. Here's a really beat up copy of the Marvel Comics Super Special Kiss, which now Gene Simmons was a comic book fan in the 60s and a fan of horror movies. He had his own fanzine that he put out called Cosmos Stiletto, and then I think he became a school teacher, and then he wound up becoming in the early 70s. See, this band, see, this is all, it's got a big tear that someone's taped up. I mean, but it's, see that? You got to look for where there's red ink. Wherever there's red ink, that you could actually be touching the blood, the DNA of a KISS member, because they put their blood into the red ink vat in a publicity stunt. This is the second KISS book, but it doesn't have a cover. And so that's the condition I have. Oh, it's got the poster in it, loose. Doesn't have a cover, but it has a poster. Let's see what this poster is. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? They supposedly just did their final concert. Do you believe that? Maybe. I have a couple of issues of Deadly Hands of Kung Fu that were sent to me as an AOK by Stanley J. Kirby, who lives, I think, an hour and a half away from me, pretty close. But I still haven't met him since I moved here to Virginia. Hopefully I'll meet him soon. He seems to be someone that shares every interest I have, musically, to comic books, to monsters. And he is lives near here. But, someday we'll get together. All right, so that finishes that box. Let's get another box since we're only 47 minutes in. They canceled work tomorrow. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that just groovy, ladies and gentlemen? Those are fake sound effects in the other room, by the way. I've got boxes and boxes of these Marvel magazines. It's going to take a long time to show them all. Maybe I can show some of them on the Four Color Fossils television program tomorrow night on the Graphic Man Inspirational Network. Again, to find that channel, you on the YouTube app, type in Graphic Man Comics. If you only type in Graphic Man, you will get Graphic Man eaten by alligator, Graphic Man hit by man on motorcycle, run over by steamroller. Trust me, it is true. Well, this movie was not the hit they were hoping it would be, but it's a fun movie. Unfortunately, it was not. Just wish it had been. They had just tweaked a few things, and it had become a series. But Doc Savage, Pulp Hero, they started reprinting his pulp stories in the 60s, and they were publishing them in the 70s, and then George Powell got the rights to make a movie, and then this is the comic book adaptation of it. Marvel had had the rights to do Doc Savage for a while. There was a Doc Savage comic in the 20-cent era, and this is the magazine that came out. Oh, everybody's moving snow out there, man. Everybody's clearing the snow. I wonder if I have a complete run. Let's see. This is the second Smash issue. What? Oh, it's got a printing error. That's not a very nice printing error. Oh well. Gosh darn you, Curtis. Marvel had been bought out by Curtis Publishing at that point. There are those that speculate that Stan Lee amped up the claims that he created everything in Origins of Marvel Comics because Curtis had just bought out Marvel and he was trying to make himself look good to the new people in charge. Because Stan Lee knew he didn't have that much, he wasn't the sole creator of those characters, and it was in Origins of Marvel Comics, the book that he wrote, that his claims were most egregious, I think. And then other times he pretty much admitted that the artist brought the stories in and then he filled in the dialogue, and it's like, who's this character you created, Jack? Oh, and it was the Silver Surfer. But yeah, whatever. See the belt buckle that says Doc Savage? That's something out of the movie. The movie had a bit of campiness that I think most people, I don't know, I don't want to knock the movie, but oh well, what are you gonna do, man? Crying over milk that was spilled 50 years ago. Okay, here's number 5. I might have the complete run of these. It's not like it's a hard run to build. Just get on eBay and click. That's not what I did. I found these all in the wild. Or some of them I bought like that. Actually, most of these I bought when they were new. Like Doc Savage #1, I bought that one right off the rack. Ooh, look at this. These little joke products. This company's called Gandalf Products. Yeah, there's nice artwork in here. They're fun to read. If you're a Doc Savage fan, you've got to have these. That's 5, 6. And they're drawing him on the cover to look like Steve Holland. Inside the book, I don't think they do. Whoa, come on. Inside the book, they don't make him look like. Now, who is Steve Holland? Steve Holland was this muscular actor, model that played Flash Gordon in a TV series in the 50s that was an American-made show, but they filmed it in Germany. Anyway, that's in public domain, I think. You can see it on YouTube. But Steve Holland in the 60s posed for, and into the 70s posed for, it was the model for every cover for the Doc Savage reprint books that were put out in a series in the 70s. So he pretty much became the face of Doc Savage. Doc Savage on the covers of the old pulps wasn't shown as having this pointy widow's peak. It was described in the books that he had like a skull, his hair was like a skull cap. So they went kind of literally on the covers of those books with the skull cap thing. Usually Doc Savage in the 30s really did, the way they painted him on the covers really kind of did more look like Ron Ely, who also played Tarzan a few years before. This is Doc Savage 7. Just a lot of fun. Doc Savage 8. What is this, man? This is something everybody has. It came out. It was an X-Men. Was it the first graphic? No, the first graphic novel was first Marvel graphic novel. Um, uh, the thing is, you got to look to see if you have a first printing, and I probably do because I bought it when it was new. And how do you tell if you have a first printing? Let us look. Third printing. So that means it's the first printing. Oh, I have a third printing of that. Who cares? Isn't that wonderful? God loves, man kills. Sure enough. Oh, you little dirty. Okay. That brings us to the childhood joy of Planet of the Apes. Now, Planet of the Apes premiered in maybe September of '73 on CBS television. They started running the theatrical films on Friday nights, and I was there as a third grader and was in love with the apes. And then every few weeks, or maybe once a month, they ran the next one until they'd run all five. And then there was an avalanche of Planet of the Apes merchandise, far more than had actually come out when the movies were actually released in the theater, which I think only, when the movie was in the theater, I think there was a soundtrack album, the paperback, just bit myself. And there were bubblegum cards. I don't know if there were other Planet of the Apes merchandise, but in the 70s, it became huge. Same thing with Star Trek. Star Trek was far bigger right around 73. Star Trek and Planet of the Apes became huge, even though Planet of the Apes was, more than 5 years old, and Star Trek was about the same. Anyway, Marvel put out this Planet of the Apes magazine. It has text features, and it has original stories. This is by Mike Plug, who's one of my favorite artists, and so it's another adventure, and this is kind of in that world of Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and also the TV series where humans aren't dumb animals yet. They still can talk, but they're kind of a little more savage. And so this is, as I recall, I haven't read these stories since elementary school. It was like a friendship between a real young chimp and a real young teenage human boy, and their adventures going around different places. So this takes place in a certain place in the Planet of the Apes timeline that you've got to be a Planet of the Apes nerd to appreciate. And of course, they also in the back, they started their adaptation of the original Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes, and all the dialogue is right from the script. They do not make him look like Charlton Heston because they probably would have had to pay him money, so they didn't do that. Although there's something about the way his grin that looks a little Charlton Heston like, but yeah, Planet of the Apes. Boy, it feels good to be touching this magazine because I'm glad it's not slabbed in plastic like those cretins. This is my childhood copy. My third grade hands. No, this might have come out when I was in fourth grade. Let me check here. Don't get me lying here. 1974. August 74. That means this came out in June of 74. So I just finished my third grade year, and this would have come out at the beginning of the summer. Beautiful covers. This one is really neat. issue 2 continues the story of Taylor and the original Planet of the Apes. This is how you'd relive that movie, because now you can just put in your Blu-ray or DVD or VHS. Back then, you had to read your magazine again and to relive that, or wait till TV showed Planet of the Apes again, or what I did was I got audio cassettes and I hooked them to my little childhood television, and I'd make audio cassettes and record the sound of movies I liked. So Planet of the Apes was, there's some concept drawings of Ape City. So I would listen to the sound of Planet of the Apes, and things like The Grinch That Stole Christmas and stuff like that. I would, more in this wonderful Mike Plug story was the opening story was the Mike Plug story, and then you had text features, and then you had the latest chapter of, and then they went through, in this series of magazines, they went through Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape, Conquest and Battle, Volume 3, because they went up in this, I don't know, do we have time? How much time do we have, man? Well, the show would go on forever, but my phone will shut it off because I only have so much memory on this stupid phone. Here's for, at this point, the chimp and this boy team up with some kind of river pirates. It's Charlton Heston is spitting on Dr. Zaius, man. Ooh, look at that. You see that? Look at these poor Amish people with their horse and buggy in this snow. Oh well, I love the Amish, man. I love them, man. I love the Amish. They're the greatest, man. And they vote. They'll vote. I love everything about them. I don't think I could cut it as an Amish person, but I have so much respect for them, man. And it's so cool to see that, man. It's just like, I feel like I'm back in the Little House on the Prairie days. Pa's coming. They're the nicest people. They're just wonderful. Here's issue 5. These are all childhood copies. These were all bought when they came out off the newsstand by an excited 3rd or 4th grade. Actually, they went on through 5th grade, and I think the magazine died in the middle of my 6th grade year. Yeah, see, they're just finishing up Planet of the Apes here in the 5th issue. Does it get to the Statue of Liberty? No, they're going to get to the Statue of Liberty. See, it says the shocking secrets coming that everyone already knew, because we'd seen it on, and you could get belt buckles. The only other person I know that on YouTube that seems to be as fanatical, actually probably more fanatical about Planet of the Apes than me is Shannon, and who's one of the Four Color Fossils. But they've got a splinter show of their own show. Rod and Shannon have a show on Saturday mornings called Comic Book Memories, and he is a big Planet of the Apes. He showed his room, his comic room, and man, he's got a lot of Planet of the Apes stuff. The Planet of the Apes stuff I've got is from my childhood for the most part, but they put out some cool Planet of the Apes stuff. Later on, he has some great stuff. Anyway, so yeah, okay, so it's the big build up to the reveal of the Statue of Liberty. It's like, okay. He's looking up at it. Does he say all the curse words? My God, it can't be. They did it. They did it. You damn fools. I think he said GD in the movie, actually. You blow it up. And then he says, God damn you all to hell. Doesn't say that here in this comic book. Look, they give it a double-page spread. Now, about not long after this came out, they started a color comic called Adventures on the Planet of the Apes, and they reprinted these movie adaptations in a color comic. And I bought the first issue. I bought a couple of issues, but I wish I'd bought them all. But it just seemed like, man, I'm buying something I just bought, except they added color to it. It seemed like kind of a waste of my 25 cents, but it actually wouldn't have been. I was actually insane to even have that thought. But I think I bought the first couple issues of Adventures on the Planet of the Apes. Just look at this Mike Plug art. It looks like these are his pencils, and then they just said it's too great. We're not even going to try to mess with it with ink. It looks like they just published his pencils to me. Doesn't that look like that to you? They're such tight pencils, they just published them. Mike Plug, you magnificent. It just, oh, and this cover. This never happened in Planet of the Apes. Look, it's Taylor and Nova are running from the apes. And Nova is shot in the back. Do you see that puff of smoke with the blood coming out of her back? Do you see that? That didn't happen in the movie. Nova was just fine. See, on the next issue, she's perfectly fine. There's no... That's not the way it actually happened in the movie. The gorillas weren't chasing them right up to the head of the Statue of Liberty. But it's dramatic on this cover. Okay, and so this issue, they're starting beneath the Planet of the Apes. Or was that the issue before? And, yes, it's the issue before. I need to get that back out. Yeah, this is cool because it is art by Alfredo Alcala. And the way he draws is just so great. Look at the naked apes in the sauna. Where is that? Over here. Where was that? There was a Beneath the Planet of the Apes book and record set from Power Records, and they had an artist that did, the guy that did the art for that was not Alfredo Alcala, but was, oh wait, what did they do here? Oh, the whole book is Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Oh, they must have finished the adaptation. They must have finished that story, that Mike Plug story. This whole book starts with the entire book length. It's Beneath the Planet of the Apes, up to about midway through, with text features interrupting it. Just great illustrations, man. That's issue 7. I was having the Planet of the Apes had gotten mixed up in 2 different boxes. I thought I was missing some. I mentioned that a few episodes ago. I'm glad. That's the greatest thing that's happened out of this storm-demic is I've reunited my Planet of the Apes books together again. 6, 7, 8. Another Earl Norham cover. Now that's Brent, James Franciscus. That's no longer Charlton Heston. And Beneath the Planet of the Apes, look at this, a color Hostess fruit pie ad. That's pretty unusual. This is just amazing. Oh, they continue. Oh, they continue on with Mike Ploog's story. I bet Mike Ploog was behind in the schedule and didn't have his story ready, so they put 2 episodes of Beneath the Planet of the Apes. That's my guess. I could be wrong. Here's number 9. This is a very unique cover it's by Greg Theakston. Greg Theakston, one of the guys, along with Dave Stevens, who went out and found Betty Page and made sure that in her twilight years that she was compensated and was able to sell merchandise and sell her autograph and stuff, and was known that people loved her. Greg Theakston put out a magazine called The Betty Pages, and in that they were talking about where is Betty, and ultimately they found her. Greg Theakston was also a big pioneer in reprinting Golden Age comics and trying to figure out a way with the technology of the 80s, trying to reproduce old Golden Age comics where you don't have the original artwork at hand. And he figured out a way to bleach the color. He'd have to ruin an actual